All right, so I spent quite a bit of time working on a character that would have some of the features that we want to show. This is Irrigates. He's a 5th level, kind of a neutral evil wizard. It's evocation. And amongst his spells that I had kind of set aside were the 3rd level spell of Fireball and the 1st level spell of Grease. And then I also set up some notes here for a little ambush that I'm going to show to illustrate some of the stuff. I have already set up some portals, which we can show how to reset those up again. And then we can go down this list in which I have the story entries for most of the material that you have. So I have spell extension that allows you to drag over all the spells. I have all the one-click stuff, including the DM tools. And of course, portals is loaded. You have the Rob 2E coding effects, some of the base books, and also
Better
some
module
others.
window.
Excuse me?
Do you have the better module window?
Yes, I do.
Better module window, if you click the modules, right there, you have unload all and unload this module. So that way you can unload a module right there without having to bring up the big list.
Okay.
And click on the big list and you'll see the list as the condensed version.
Okay. So it's a good way to start it off. So this is the condensed version, and this is what you're getting out of that. So you can unload all these at once, or you can come in here and you got a longer, more condensed list of things, and it tells you if it's a GM or a player module, and then you have the book icon like you traditionally do on the left.
You click the book to open it or to close it.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, the benefit of having the condensed version like this is you can see more modules at once, so that way if you have a large library, you can go through it very quickly, as well as it actually loads modules and unloads them just a little bit faster,
Mm-hmm.
because whenever you open or close a module, it doesn't have to render all the other graphics. It's just open the book and open the file.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So if you guys have a huge library like I do, it's ridiculous. That might be a thing.
And even if you have this installed and you just want to use the right click on the library window to unload things, and you don't want the uh, condensed list, you can go to the options settings, and it's on the top section. Sorry, I can't quite read the screen like this.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
says
right
use
there.
compact module list. So you could.
If you turn that off, and then you open up the library again, it'll give you have a lot of modules, man. It'll give you the normal window.
Yep. Yep. Cool.
So you can turn it on and off on the fly.
And then
So
if you right
that's
click, that closes all of them, right?
you can close all, or you can choose the right one, which is just close this individual one.
Nice. I like that.
So that way you don't have to close all the modules. You can just like
Yep.
say if you open one to level and then you want to close it down to save resources, you can just like close Xanathar's right there, and you don't have to go into the list and click to see what all's loaded and then search through and whatnot. You can just unload it right there.
So I'm gonna unload the DM's guide.
It takes a minute. It's a big file.
All right. So there's
It's
that.
unloaded.
So that's part of your package there. That is called the what's that again? The
Better module window.
yeah, better module window. All right. Since we're talking about that kind of thing, if you play a spellcaster, let's say a cleric or a druid or a paladin or anything with divine casting rights, normally when you build your character, you're dragging on your spells as you need them, or maybe as clusters, or as you use them, maybe by popularity. So if I go to the spells window, which is in character creation mode, and then I'm going to select the Rob 2E effects coding, which is spells in this case. and I'm going to filter it to, let's say this character
Level
was,
1 cleric or
yeah,
something.
level 1 cleric, yeah. So I'm just going to go to level 1, and then I'm going to filter to the source, which is cleric. And these are all the basic level 1 spells. So instead of dragging them one at a time, you just drag this list on the very top left, and that'll put all of them on at once. The advantage of that is you don't have to keep messing around with the spell books and that kind of thing with clerics. You don't have to mess with the lists anymore.
It's really big for clerics and druids. Another thing it's really, really big for is if there's a list that. Sorry for the background noise. Kids. If there's a list of things that you want all the characters to be able to have, and like say healing potions or the actions, like ready and help, and all those things. If you filter it to those, you like say you just search for healing potion. You have a list of healing potions. You want those all coded on there. It allows you to just grab all the healing potions at once. You don't have to grab regular healing potion, greater healing potion, supreme healing potion. It just
Right.
grabs all of them at the same time.
Sweet.
Or the actions there with the dodge, help, hide, ready. You can just grab those all together by just searching for action. And the reason why I mention that is a lot of people think with the enhanced spell list that it's really well, yeah, with that you can always just delete the last one. A lot of people think that it's mainly only for priests or for druids, but it's one of those things where you can use your filters and stuff and get a group of spells or group of things like healing potions or actions and just grab those all together and put it on the character sheet, which really helps with character creation and management and stuff like that.
So in this case, I made a standard actions group. It's down here on the bottom. I'm just going to take and drag that list down here. Hopefully it populates. Yep. Well, I got to go and copy and paste that into those, but yep.
Yeah. So that's one bad thing is if it doesn't have an actual spell type or class, it'll put in a blank spells tab, um, which is not really that difficult to manage. You can just instead if you don't want to do each individual spell, you can just click the spyglass at the upper right of the category and change it right there. You I think chose the wrong one. No, you did it. You're good. No, you did all of them. Anyway, yeah, weird glitch. So, anyways, that's something that you can do is grab all the actions, all the healing potions. If there's like certain things like that that you want to do, that's groups that you just want every character to have, it speeds that up.
Very cool. So what was that called again? The
Enhanced
enhanced,
spell lists.
yeah, enhanced spell list. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and I don't think the enhanced spell list has any options to turn anything on or off because it's just a button.
Yep.
Enhanced spell window.
Better module window, enhanced spell list, I thought. Hold on. Yep, you're right. It is enhanced spell window. I stand corrected. My bad.
Yeah.
Enhanced spell list was actually my original working title.
Oh, okay.
So, thank you, Rob. That um, I deal with a lot of stuff, so sometimes I forget like the final word. So
The password is,
that's
damn it.
saver.
All right.
Yes, it is.
All right. So that's that. Now let's see. So I want to get into this other nice stuff. This is from the critically essentials line from you have the one-click Druid, you have one-click more, and you have the DM and the player tools. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I already have a character conveniently made up, and that's what we were playing with earlier was a test character. And this one's actually ready to go out of the box. I got pretty much all the actions and spells ready to go. I made this guy have a custom ring, and I don't know if I did it right, but we'll find out shortly. This is a polymorph ring that he has that was granted from his patron, and it's a very powerful item. It basically lets him turn into like a shadow demon or that type of thing. And those are the usages on the side. So I took the polymorph template and followed the instructions, which actually came with the one-click more instruction pamphlet. So we'll show that shortly. But the first thing I want to show is the Druid part of it. So this cleric or this wizard is not a Druid, yet he has one of the effects on here. And this is a wild shape, and it's CR half. And I ended up taking it from a list. So when you grab the extension and module, you have instructions. I encourage you to read those because I never do. And once you read them, you go, "Oh, that's how you do it." So I did read these before we did the show. I'm pretty sure I got this right. So if I go to, let me go back to GM mode. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the story entries here. So whenever you buy any products from the 2E clan and the like all the creators that work under Rob, they mostly have in their library, not everybody, but most of them have a, let's see, how can I show this?
Ref manual.
Yep, you have your reference manual, and
DM Tools has the ref manual.
Yep. So Critically Awesome Essentials has one, and so does the Critically Essentials One Click More. So we're going to look at the Druid side of this. And if you go to the story mode, it gives you a breakdown of what's in this module. And one of those is that I really like is the Moon Druid. It covers other types of druids, but the Moon Druid is exceptional because it has higher access to higher CR level monsters and animals, or animals, excuse me. So when you have this not Moon Druid, you would pick that, and that has a list of different wild shapes that you can choose.
And what level you get the different things.
Right.
And it's all sorted on the lists.
And if you play a Moon Druid, there's your reference that gives you the rules. And then there is a note here that you have to reapply token effects in case the shifted token gets moved to a different map. So you'll have to remember to refresh that.
As of the latest update for Critically Awesome Essentials, that's not necessary.
Good.
Because I actually changed the space so that way when it gets drugged to the new map, it's of the correct size.
Nice. So he's actually fixed that since then.
Yes. I haven't updated the module to reflect that. However, I still leave the reapply token if for some reason there's an error or conflict with other extensions and it basically stops like either a shift or a D-shift. You can apply the reapply token effect that's in that spell, and it'll basically reapply things like they should be.
Like clears it.
Well, yes. But you basically will want to take your token, place it back on the combat tracker, and then reapply, just to basically clear out everything to the default. Additionally, with these list around the Circle of the Moon window, where it says Wild Shape Info, if you click there, it's no, up one. It's at the very, very top link.
Yep.
Yeah, this is like, the breakdown of all the information that's in the player's handbook that's applicable to Wild Shape for Circle of the Moon. So it's a nice thing, and then the gameplay quick ref doc is basically a cheat sheet. And I have a quick ref doc for Moon Druid and non Moon Druid, and this is just a quick cheat sheet. So that way, if you need to find, or if you're like, oh, I think that's an action or a bonus action, or I think it's at this level or whatnot, it's just a quick reference that you can open up, and it has just all the main bullet points.
So all these different shapes are basically compiled list of monsters that are in a story entry that you can choose, or not monsters, I should say animals or beasts. You can choose
Beast.
these and drag them over onto your sheet depending on which ones you're going to have for your particular druid. So if you wanted to
Correct.
turn into the brown bear, you'd just drag that over to the actions tab and it sets up automatically in here, just like all the other effects would, except for you have a shift button which gives you all these different attributes and changes on your character sheet instead of having to make a separate character or having to have a NPC to represent your wild shape. You now will take on the personification of that particular animal, and it'll deduct and add any of these ability scores. It'll adjust your hit points and some other things that are pertinent to it, like your armor
AC,
class.
hit
Yep.
points, the three physical effects.
Mm-hmm.
It'll adjust your token, your size, your resistances and immunities.
Yep.
And it also, if you click in the spell link
Mm-hmm.
there, it actually in the description at the bottom, it actually explains if they have multi attack, what things like keen smell, advantage on smell perception. If you keep scrolling down, it explains multi attack. You get 2 attacks, 1 bite, and 1 claw.
Mm-hmm.
Um, things like that. So that way, and it also has the link to the actual NPC sheet. So therefore, the DM can go in there, and if they're like, "Well, that's not right," or "That doesn't seem right," they can go in and they can literally just click right there. It's quick access to the NPC sheet, and they can double check it. But they don't need to share the NPC sheet, so that way the player can still read to see what it does.
Right. So this thing here is the syntax basically for this shift. At least it represents it, anyways. It's not in the
Yes.
correct order, but it's close. It shows you what it's made up of.
And it's a clickable little bubble there, so that way, if your DM's like, "Oh, well, what all does that get?" You can just click that and it'll spit it into chat.
Yep.
So that way they don't have to go researching things and stuff. So it helps the DM a lot and also helps the player a lot because I've coded in all the attacks and the damages and stuff into the wild shapes. So that way it's a one-stop shop. You literally click the effect to add it to yourself. You shift, it changes everything, and then you can just start attacking and mauling, the NPCs.
Yep. And then I did one from the one click more, which is the expanded list of creatures, or excuse me, beasts. And I picked this giant wasp. Let's see, that's from here, and it's a CR half, I believe. And it's a giant wasp. I mean,
So it's
it's.
flying.
Mm-hmm. So I just picked that as an example. So let me get rid of all these notes for right now. Just get them all over the place. So the giant wasp shape that I have set up is actually a custom token. You can use the tokens that come with that are built into the module, and those would be in your tokens library after you load the module. Or you can use one of your own, and that's what I chose to do because I've looked at those. But I'll do the brown bear first, just so you can kind of get the idea of what this does. So this is his token on the battle map, and as you can see, he's a neutral evil 5th level wizard, like a red wizard of Thay or something like that. His name's Irrigates, and this is his character sheet. So on his character sheet, I have the wild shape. Normally this would be on a druid's sheet, but in this case, for example's sake, we're going to put it on his sheet. We'll just
If you
say,
want to click the fist in the combat tracker, so that way they can see the stats as they change.
yep. So these are his stats. right, as they are. So he's 10, 15, 14, 17, 10, and 11. So when I click on the brown bear, the first button is actually the transformation. So when you click on that, it changed the token on the map and in the combat tracker. And as you can see, his stats are now inverted to where it's actually reflecting that of the bear. Once he receives enough damage to destroy or to kill off the wild shape, the damage will transfer over to his regular form. So if there's a carryover from the damage to the bear, it'll actually indicate the carryover, and he will automatically revert back to his normal shape, or maybe he just discontinues it because he's no longer in battle, or he doesn't need the shape anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove the effect manually, and that reverts him back to his normal self, and his token is back to his normal self in the combat tracker.
Stats are reverted, hit points are reverted.
Yep.
Any wounds that that they had before they shifted would also revert.
Yep. So that was the bear, and then I set up this wasp. So what I did is I went into the wasp, and it had its own, basically its own description. So here there's the giant wasp. I actually went in here and I changed the name of this to Wasp Soldier Bug because that's the name of the token. And then I also went into the Notes tab where you assign your token, your custom token, and I just called it. I kept everything the same, that way I wouldn't have any issues. So Wasp Soldier Bug. This is a wild shape, and that is the token I chose for it. So if you were going to do this yourself, you would just name this aptly. You would pick the shift type. In this case, we picked a wild shape, and then you assign your token to it. So then when you activate this, it actually calls on the correct token, and it transforms your sheet. So I will do that now. So I'm going to click this wasp wild shape. Oh, what do you know? We got the bear. So what we have to do in that case is take him off the combat tracker, because I ran into this before. I'll take him off here. Okay. And I think this should fix that. Normally, if you use the standard tokens that come with the combat wild shape, you won't have to deal with this. This is mostly when you use custom ones that you can run into issues. So,
and I am working to resolve that.
But it does work.
What it is, it's in the memory. So
yes, I tried to refresh the memory. So let's see if that helped at all. So if I go to notes, yep. So there's my
apply to the map.
Yep. There we go. Now let's see. Nope. So it's still in memory.
So how did you make the shape? Did you name the shape, select the wild shape, and then drop the token? Okay.
It worked earlier. You don't. Once I added the bear, then it didn't work. So in other words, it changed after I added this other stuff.
No worries. I will definitely make sure that is working by the end of today, most likely.
Okay.
Now, if that ever occurs and it's the wrong token, say loaded from memory or something like that, you don't actually have to, unless it changes the shape size. You don't actually have to change the token, like delete them from the combat tracker or whatnot. You can actually just take the token, or the DM can take the token and just drop it on the combat tracker to overwrite the token.
Okay.
On the field.
Okay.
So if you ever run into an error like that, that will be an easy fix.
Okay. So here I had different wild shapes things set up. So when I
Stop.
select,
Go back to wild shape.
yep,
Drop a token.
yep. So you probably have to reset it at this level.
Yeah. Add him to the combat tracker before you drop it.
Okay.
Now drop a token. All right, now cycle through the wild shape to see if it happens. On the list, the shape type, click on that until it says wild shape again.
Yep. Now it's picked it up.
Okay, now apply the effect.
Yep.
You likely made the shape while it wasn't on the combat tracker.
Could very well be.
Is he on the map?
No, he's not. That would help. There we go. What do you
Yeah.
know?
So the instructions, I believe, say make sure he's on the combat tracker when you create it because it attaches to the um, combat tracker node to find your character sheet. So if that happens, that's basically a troubleshooting step is to go through and click the shape just to see if it changes to what it's supposed to be. Um, but I can try to work on like extra protections and stuff for that.
You mean
But
make it dummy proof?
yeah, the longer it's been out there for a year, and I still keep running into things where people don't read the instructions
Yeah.
correctly, or they forget things because they've had it for so long, and they're doing like something new, like setting a new token, and they're like, "Oh, I haven't done that for a month, and that's pretty easy. It's right here." And they forget small steps like making sure it's on the combat tracker when they set the custom token and stuff. It's a very common issue. Um, but I do keep running into those things. So,
Well, I did have
um,
it working before we did the show, and when I
okay.
used the bear thing, it's like it erased what I had set up. But then again, I might not have had it on the combat tracker either. So.
Well, that's the odd thing is if it wasn't on the combat tracker when you set it, because it was actually sitting there on the notes tab,
Mm-hmm.
it pulled that information from the notes tab, but once you had shifted into the bear, it actually pulled that information from memory,
Mm-hmm.
and set that as the token type.
Weird.
So it's complicated how it goes behind the scenes. But it basically was just pulling from memory, and since you had set a token on the notes tab, it was pulling from that memory. But we can move on. I mean,
Yep.
it's as long as it's on the combat tracker,
Yep.
um, and you set the custom token, it should pull the custom token. Um, I'll double check to make sure. Try to make it a little bit more dummy proof.
Okay. And we had another thing where I was making a ring of the demon basically. And what this did was it would turn the guy into to this shadow demon like thing, and you can use the stats and such. I went in there and I took the all the information and edited it to my own to the shadow demon stats.
Delete.
So what's that?
So delete the first effect. Actually, just delete both effects,
Mm-hmm.
and then apply it.
All right.
And it may have lost the link for the token. Yeah, it
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. No biggie. But that's kind of what happened when I got the bear thing. Then it kind of overrode everything I did. So I don't know. But it's
Like
good.
I said, I'll double check, make sure it's working.
Yep. But I know it works. It just something takes it out of line. I'm not sure what it is, but anyhow, that bear is pretty cool. I like the token anyway, so I don't need to substitute it with my own. But if you have tokens that are named the same as the base tokens, that might cause a little issue too. Because if you have a bunch of them and they have the same names, that might also throw things off.
It was actually specifically made so that way if you had like if you wanted a different brown bear token, you could actually type in brown bear wild shape,
Oh,
drop a new
okay.
token, and it would use the custom shape.
Oh, okay.
Um, so I definitely need to make sure that it's writing and saving to the right place. It's obviously writing and saving. It's just I need to make sure it's attaching to the character sheet, not just the combat tracker. So, like I said, behind the scenes stuff, unless you're into coding, that probably doesn't make any sense at all. Don't worry about it. Yeah, you unload the Dungeon Master thing.
Yep, that's all right.
So we can move on to some of the other features. Because Wild Shape, it changes all the stats, it changes the token, changes the size, manages all that, manages the carryover damage, does a lot of stuff that was a lot of work for previous druids and DMs.
Okay, so now I want to show you the spell tokens. So this is going to be an area of effect fireball. And what you do is when you have a spell already in your spell list, you have to add an action or an effect to the actual entry. So in this case, it is fireball. When I expand this, normally all you have is like the attack and the save, and then you'll have the damage. Well, there's one more line here that actually adds the token, and that comes in from the module and the extension. So if you right click on the fireball and you add action, there's a new icon called token that's added up towards the top. And that's what allows you to add the new token line to your spell. So any spells that you want to put a specific token on, you have to do that with each spell, provided it makes sense. Some of these probably don't need tokens, but in this case, we have a fireball token. When you open the properties, you have different aspects of this that you want to set up. In this case, the size factor, instead of just being size, medium, or small, in this case, it's actually a measurement. And we went with diameter because it's a diameter spell. And it's 20,
Radius.
or
Fireball's
radius.
radius.
Yeah, radius. And it's 20 feet.
And click save once you edit
Yep.
those fields.
And it's also checked off as a circle token. So I just
It
saved it.
will delineate between a rectangle or square token and a circle token. It's kind of obvious, but with the difference between a square and a circle is the corners. Um, and when you have a massive amount of targets or a target that's kind of on the line, if you have a square token, it'll still grab it if it's on that corner. With a circle, it doesn't grab it. So
the scenario here is Irrigates is on his way to his home base, and these damn gnolls are in the way. So he's not too worried about them, but they're costing him time. So it's pissing him off. So he's gonna cast this fireball on them, and it's pretty nasty. It's 8d6 fire damage. So first I'm going to drag it and drop it somewhere on here, preferably over the top of these guys. So that's going to get everybody.
and it automatically resizes when you drop it on the map.
Correct.
And names it too. So that way, if you have multiple spells that are persistent, like spiritual weapon and stuff, if multiple people are using the same spell token, you can identify if that's Irrigast or if that's Delude. You can tell who owns that token and what spell it came from.
Right. So this says Irrigast in parentheses, fireball, and then the other parentheses is the 150 feet for range. So now that I have them in that area of effect, there's a little target button. If I click on that target button, it will target all 4 of these gnolls. It should. So I'm going to go ahead and click the target button. Now it disappears temporarily, but you see now all these individuals are targeted. So at this point, all I have to do is do the normal stuff, which at this point it would be the saving throw for the cast. And you got a couple success and mostly failures, and then apply the damage. And it looks like it wiped quite a couple of them out. No, it didn't kill them. It just kind of severely wounded them. So this is one way to utilize this.
That was the shittiest fireball roll ever in history.
It is. Look at that. I've never seen that bad. All ones. Yeah, last time I did this, when I practiced last night, it annihilated every single one of these guys. Not one person was standing. There should have been a big, huge, blazing scar in the ground from that. But anyhow,
that one just singed the bushes.
Yeah, it just sends the bushes. Poof. It went out like a barbecue.
It's a fire spark.
So that's that one. I'm going to reset, and I'm going to untarget these guys, and I'm going to actually go and reset everything. And then give everyone a long rest, just in case. Okay. So I'm going to untarget these guys.
Sorry. When you gave the long rest, you actually activated another part of the extension.
Oh, I forgot about that. And that gives the XP. So part of this tool is when you have a thing like this, it'll automatically give you the 400 that comes from this encounter, right?
Yes,
this
it'll
encounter's
automatically
worth
award. Though there are options, so that way the DM can choose encounters, and quests, or off. So that way, if they don't want to automatically award the experience and they want to do it manually when long rests or story or whatnot, they can turn it off.
Yep. And that's in here. I see, obviously I've done this more than once. But this is...
The other side of that is when you add an encounter to the combat tracker, it automatically adds that encounter to the XP tab of the party sheet. So that way you don't have to go through and remember, oh yeah, I forgot to add that encounter and how much was that worth and stuff. When you click the down arrow to add it to the combat tracker, it will add it to the party sheet, as well as it will automatically lock the tokens that are on the map. And that's so that way if you're have the tokens unlocked and the parties are moving through the cave and they're like, I'm going to go look over here, I'm going to go look over here, and you add the encounter because they've gotten to the point, and then you don't have to sit there and say, okay, rewind, go back to where you were, go back to where you were, and have to move them back out. When you add the encounter, it just locks them down right there. Again, in the options tab, you can turn it off if you don't want that.
Pretty cool, though.
And Drake smiles every time.
Oh, yeah.
So that...
You'd be like, oh, the tokens just got locked. Drake gets this evil smile.
Alright, so I'm going to add these buggers again. Now this time, I'm going to use the grease spell. So again, it's a spell on the list that's already on his memorized list or whatever is prepared. And it's first level spell. And in this spell, when you expand it, I've already chose a token for it, which is a big blob of grease. And it's pretty much ready to go, and it's already sized, and it has its value already. It's ready to go.
If you are using a square token like Verifier or Grease or something like that, if you want to be square, just use diameter for the size. Like a 15-foot cube is a 15-foot diameter.
Mm-hmm.
That is mentioned in the instructions, but people always ask.
I bet. So in this case, I'm going to drop this grease right there. So if they try to bum rush me, they're going to have to go through that grease first. And what we're going to do here is we're going to hit persistent, right?
Yes, you check the persist there. Now the target option turned into persist option. And the token, obviously, since it was target token, turned into the targeting button.
So now if they move into this area, I gotta make them visible. Okay. Now they are going to be targeted. I just clicked on targets, and you can see it has all 4 of them targeted now. And it's a persistent spell, so it's going to stay until the duration's over.
Now, any DM who's experienced Fantasy Grounds will realize right now those tokens are on top of the grease spell. So if they want to move them, they really won't be able to grab those tokens. However, I have actually resolved token stacking. So if you simply make, say, Null 4 and make it their turn. Now, if you find Null 4's token on the stack, if you hold Shift and or click down, left click onto Null 4, it'll resolve the stack. Now you can actually grab Null 4 and pull him out. So the other nulls are still there wherever in the grease. But you grab Null 4, grab Null 4.
Yep, there's 3 and 1. Now I just clicked on that.
Sometimes it's useful to have translucent tokens, so that way you can see underneath.
Yeah, I see it now. Yep.
Another way that's another thing that you can do with the token stacking, if you want, put Null 1, Null 3, and basically put Null 4 on top of another token. Now put another token on top of him. Now hold Shift and click down on the stack, and without unclicking, drag it. Okay, so go ahead and hold Shift, left click onto that stack, and just drag whatever token you have out. You're holding control, aren't you?
Actually, hold Shift.
Yeah, the first one that you grabbed was 4.
The point he's trying to make is that if you have a stack, well, whoever's turn it is in the combat
Yeah.
tracker.
Oh, I see.
When you hold Shift, you'll drag that one out.
Got it.
Here's an easy one. Make it the player's turn, put the player in the middle of the stack.
Okay.
Put him on a token, put another token on top of him. Hold Shift, click down, drag token. There you go. You just pulled them out of the middle of a stack. So that way you don't have to sit there and restack them like Laroon was doing, which I'm guessing was complete habit. You don't have to keep clicking and restacking like that. Whoever's turn it is, you can just Shift, click down, hold it, and just pull them out.
Cool. Now that we
carry
have
on
that,
with the targeting.
Yeah, so it's they're targeted basically. So then you would just do your save, and they all succeeded except for one, and that was number 4, or who was that? Number 3 actually. So then you would apply prone to number 3.
That was actually no one.
Oh, no one.
It automatically, because you have the thing set for if they fail or if they
Okay.
succeed on those, it detargets. So you don't even have to drag it onto the combat tracker. You
Just
can
click
just
on it.
click the effect and it'll apply it to them.
Oh yeah, that's right. All right. So that was cool. All right.
Now, if say one of them moves out of that stack, just drag Null 1 out, or whoever. Just grab one of them, drag it out of the stack. There. Now there's only 3 in there. So it's the next round, and you want to target whoever's in the grease again. So you can then, because you persisted it, it's still there, and you can click target again to target the remaining 3.
I think because I moved it around, it kind of messed it up.
Is it because it's not the player's turn?
It could be
Yeah,
also.
it might be. Yeah.
There we go. Now we'll do it, and
Click the targeting button. Okay, so somehow the moving it around delinked that token. So go ahead and uncheck persist. Click target, it'll get rid of that, and you can then reapply a new token. I'm guessing, so I've actually ran into this. If you click the wrong button, like a control is kind of the escape key for most token things, because it actually has, that's how you zoom in, zoom out, make the token bigger, do things. So if you hit control, this is kind of like a little best practice. Try not to use control as a push to talk or whatnot
that's exactly what's going on.
while you're interacting with a token, because the control is the escape. So that way, when you resolve the token stack, it actually delinked that token, because I did that so that way if you use control, or if you're to zoom in or zoom out or make the tokens bigger and stuff, it will actually not affect what you're doing. Does that make sense? Because Fantasy Grounds already has built-in controls, and I did not want to overwrite those controls. I'll try to make that a little bit more dummy-proof. That one is a very new capability that has been added in. I'll try to make it a little bit more dummy-proof.
So that all worked right. I mean, I just went through and targeted them all, then did the saving throw, and then actually applied the effect. So.
Yep. So, and you can have it be a targeting token, a regular token, or you can have a targeting token persist. So that way, if they move in or out, so just put the targeting token like over on the log. All right, now go ahead and click persist. Say null one, or one of the nulls, just grab one, throw him onto the oil slick because he's trying to run away because he just fireballed his buddies and whatnot. You can then click target and it'll target him. Okay, and you can do your thing. Now say the next null's turn, it's his turn, and he goes to try to run away. So drag him over there. The first guy's still kind of laying there. So click target again. Now you targeted both of them. So the persist simply just persists the targeting ability. To get rid of that, all you do is you uncheck persist and click the target again, and it gets rid of the token. So that way it doesn't persist on the map.
Sweet. All right.
So
Like it.
all right. So that's spell tokens. We've also covered the encounters. We covered token stacking.
I guess I can show them portals.
You can show portals if you want.
Okay.
Can you do a demonstration of Spiritual Hammer?
Yeah, we'll do that at the end.
Okay.
Yep. So let's say Irrigates is getting overwhelmed. Let's say he's running out of spells. Maybe he's wounded. He's saying, "Screw this! I'm out of here." Maybe he has a dimension door, or has a way out of the situation. So he's going to move over here. And it's going to say, "Do you wish to return home?" And I'm going to say yes. And now he's back at his home in his tower.
Which is a completely different map.
Yep. And this is a one-way. You can set it up as one way, because this is your entry point, and this is your end point. Now, if they were both green, you wouldn't be able to, you could go back and forth. So somehow they're unlinked now, but
So, yeah, because you don't have your toolbar. Okay, you do have your toolbar now. So Portals was actually released before they started really messing with the maps. So there are right now a little bit of instability with it. I'm working on an overhaul that should be hopefully released within the next month or so.
yeah.
That will significantly make things a little bit more stable.
So what we
Um,
did to create it is what I want to show them.
Okay. So yeah, to create it, all you do is you click that little token button right up there,
Mm-hmm.
and you drag an area on the map. It places a token and lets you name it to whatever you want.
I'm just going to say start, and I'm not going to leave this as exit only because this is the starting point anyways. So you don't click that. You can say prompt.
And with prompt, you can, yeah, you can do that. Now to link it, what you can do is you can just double click on another portal on the map, or you can bring up your portal list or whatnot, as long as you get another portal record open.
So this one, in other words.
Yes, double click on it. Okay, delinked. Sorry.
Yep, that's okay.
You'll have to create another one.
Yep. So I'll just create one here. So I have to
So
click
same
on
thing.
the portal button.
Click the button. Yep. Drag.
Define your area. Now, if this was going to be your endpoint and you couldn't go back, you would make this your exit only. But I'm going to leave it this time. So
All
now I need to link them together. So now that these are like this, you just unlock either or, it doesn't really matter which one. And now that they're linked, they turn green. So technically, he can go back and forth. But what was your caveat or your warning about that?
My caveat is once you teleport like that, you'll want to move and kind of
Wait a
well,
second.
before you wait a second before you move again. Since it's not inherent to Fantasy Grounds, and because of the changes that they've done to the actual image control or the map window, the instability, if you teleport one way and then immediately teleport back, it'll actually crash Fantasy Grounds.
So when is it safe? About now?
Yeah, you should be safe now.
Okay. Leave the map. Yes.
Bob, would
There
you
you go.
say that's like 1 or 2 seconds, or do you have to wait like 5 seconds?
It's like 1.5 or to 2 seconds.
Okay.
It's not bad.
It's just basically enough for Fantasy Grounds to refresh itself. Additionally, what you can do is you can like click on the combat tracker and then back to the map. Anything that basically triggers Fantasy Grounds to be refreshed on itself. Again, the overhaul is going to make that much more stable, so that way you can start flipping back and forth pretty easily. Because once players realize, hey, look, this is a cool feature, I can jump to this map, and I'm on this side of the map, and I'm on that side of the map. They want to just start jumping back and forth for a couple of seconds, and then after the DM then decides, okay, screw this, and locks all tokens. Sorry. That basically, I want to prevent unintentional crashes from happening. Another thing that you can do is you can basically set up 2 portals that are basically one way. So it's 2 sets of portals stacked on top of each other. So that way you're not kind of jumping through the same portal. There's some other things that you can do there. But that's definitely something that you want to be cognizant of right now, because I am working on the overhaul hard to try to get that much more stable.
Cool. So I'm going to set up the spiritual weapon. So this is a wizard again, but I'm just going to drag the spell into a second level area. Okay, now the spiritual weapon already has some effects on it, but we need to add the token effect. So I'm going to right click on it, click on Add Action, and the little picture frame up here that's created from the extension, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And that just adds the blank line where you're going to add the token. And this also has the properties of said token. So I'm going to go to my library of tokens, and hopefully
Vast collection.
you already have spell tokens, hopefully.
I do. But yes. You can also use a facsimile. You can use whatever you want. You may need to load the module. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Some people use a cow.
Yeah, whatever you want to use. But okay, here's a
Because
spiritual.
a spiritual weapon can take the form of any weapon that they choose.
Well, here's a spiritual hammer right here. Phantom hammer.
Bam.
Okay, there's the token. I'm going to what? This doesn't need to be radius.
Its medium is fine.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Because it's a persistent token that basically moves around, and then you just attack with it.
Okay, so now I'm going to take it out, and we'll just say I casted it. I casted it. So I'll place this guy. We'll just say he's next to that null. Now you just use it as you would, right? And change it to persistent after that, right?
You don't have, or because it's only one token.
Okay.
You don't have to use it as a targeting token. You just use it as a place marker to say, okay, my spiritual weapon's over here. I move it over there, and then you just target and attack with it just like you normally would. So you just like target the null that's right there and drop the attack and the damage on him as critical hit. Good job.
Well, he's at disadvantage because he's prone or he was affected by that grease earlier.
Oh yeah. So then go ahead and drop the damage on him and it applies. It's just basically a way to show, hey, look, my spiritual weapon's over here. Okay, I could move it 20 foot as a bonus action and attack, so I'm going to move it over here and attack. However, as you notice when he hovers over it names it. So if you have multiple people using the same token, you can see who owns it and what the spell name is. So if you just have like, the generic S token, and you have two spells that are persisting out there and two people throwing out different spells that are all the S token, you can see who owns it and what spell it belongs to. So that way they don't sit there and go, oh, no, this S over here was my spiritual weapon, and it can actually attack the big bad guy.
Question: when the spiritual hammer is under a lockdown mode, can the player plot out the course like they would do on their turn to move the hammer?
Yes. So if you would lock the tokens.
They're already locked.
They're locked. Okay, so for the DM, you can plot it out by, I think it's holding control and dragging the token. So that emulates what the player would be doing to move it. And now if you just middle click on the token, it'll move just like a player would. But yes, the players will be able to drag it just like their token and move it around even with the tokens locked, just like in their normal character. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right, not a problem. Now, if you want to, go ahead and add light to your character sheet. Go ahead and add a token thing. add a light token. If you just type in light, it's actually, I have some generic tokens, or you can use whatever token there that you want.
Yeah, here's a light one. I'm going to use this orange one so it shows up. The only problem with those is they're hard to grab.
Yeah, initially, once they're actually on the token field, it's literally you click anywhere on that token field. But there you go, green one.
Okay.
Okay, so light, let's just switch it out to 22.5. The reason why it's not a 20-foot radius, so click on the editor. Sorry.
Yep.
Get ahead of myself. Click it to measure, radius 22.5. Now, the reason why I do 22.5 is since light has a 20-foot radius. In this instance, you can change it for, say, dark vision and stuff like that. Instead of 20, because it goes from the center of your token. So since your token is 5 foot across, you just add the 2.5 for diameter. You just add the 5. So that's just how you add those on. If you want the correct size, because
So
light emanates from the character.
right. So let me drag this onto him.
So just to
Not from there.
clarify that, because that's really confusing for people. So I'm going to just clear that up a little bit. So when you have a radius of just a square or a circle, obviously, if you put 20, it's going to be 4 squares across, 4 high, 4 by 4. But in the case of something that emanates from the character, the way D&D does it and the way Fantasy Grounds does it is it emanates from from each side of the character. So in order to have it come out 4 from the character on the left, 4 from the top, 4 from the right, and 4 from the bottom of the token, you have to basically eliminate that 5 feet inside the middle. So on each side, you have to do 2.5, so that it's 5 feet across, no matter if you're going up and down or left and right. I hope I didn't further confuse people, but that's why you have to do that.
Yeah. It also comes into play with things like auras that emanate from the character and stuff. Okay, so that's your light circle. Now, right now, if you move your character and the light circle move independently. Kind of annoying. Now put them back on the center. Now, hold down Shift and middle click onto the character without hitting Control. Now in the chat you see token stack created. Now move your character. The light moves with it. When you go to a different map, it doesn't like it.
I said no.
Yes, now you have to right click on the portal and click Resolve Stack. Yeah, there you go.
I knew that was going to be an issue.
Well, that's why I put Resolve Stack on the portal, because those tokens for the portals are, like I said, it's a little unstable right now. So if you Resolve Stack using the Shift click down, it will actually break the link. If you right click and click Resolve Stack, it'll actually keep the link appropriately and resolve it appropriately. I'm going to be adding that feature in as with the overhaul. So, but yes, so your actual light, your aura or your light radius and stuff follows your character around. Now, say, now, hold Control and drag your character. Now, tokens are locked, which is why you have the movement thing there. Now, go ahead and middle click the character to approve the movement. Okay. Now, the token went away. That's actually by design. It's because there was no way to anticipate the future of the movement with the way that Fantasy Grounds currently runs. With the next update for Fantasy Grounds, we actually will be able to do that, and the token will move with it, with the movement. But for now, you can middle click him again and turn the token back on. Additionally, if you picked him up and moved him, it would redo it, or if the player picked him up and moved him, it would redo it. Now, the other benefit is if you have like tokens that have color throughout all of it, and you're having problems targeting and whatnot, with the tokens locked, the DM can middle click the character to just turn off the token, and it'll allow the players and stuff to target appropriately until it's that player's turn to start moving. And then it moves with the character.
Cool. So that way it's not annoying.
Correct. You can turn it on and off as long as the tokens are stacked. If they're not stacked, it's always persistent. Now, to destroy the stack, and the easiest way, because a lot of people with the tokens, once they're stacked with the way that Fantasy Grounds renders it and stuff, it becomes harder to target to delete those spell tokens. So the easiest way to delete the spell token from the stack token is to turn it off like you have now and hit shift middle click on the character to destroy the stack. And you'll see on the chat says token stack deleted. And now you can move your character and that won't pop up. So that's the easiest way if you're having problems like selecting the little tokens that are really hard to grab and stuff from the edges and all that stuff, and you don't want that on your map, you can just delete the stack with the token turned off. Does that make sense, Drake? I mean, sorry, it was an issue that in the game that Drake was DMing, and I tried to explain that to him, and it was like basically in the heat of the moment, like it was just like what, and I'm like, never mind, just do whatever.
So what would you say? Practice with them a little bit before you start running them in your campaign.
For token stacks
No, for
movement,
all the tools that you have.
I would say definitely practice with them, so that way you know how to use them. They're useful off the bat, but additionally, as soon as any experienced DM understands, as soon as you give the players a shiny new toy, they're going to basically want to use it to the point of ad nauseum. So you're going to want to definitely know how to manage like portals or manage the actual spell tokens and stuff um
So knowing when to
within
stack
reason.
them and unstack them, and
Correct.
like I went through earlier with the grease spell.
Yes. So I am always working to improve my stuff. I am always trying to make things better. So if anyone ever has any suggestions, please feel free to either ask me, DM me, whatever you want. If you want to see another cool feature that DM Tools activates, grab like say a ballista or a crate token and put it on the map. Or flag or basically anything. There you go. Okay, now hold down control, resize it to whatever you want. Rotate it to however you want. Okay, so you want it there. Now go ahead and hold Alt and middle click. You only click it once. Now go ahead and try to move the token.
You cannot.
Correct. You can't move it. You can't resize it. It's now part of the scenery. It's part of the map. And that allows you to customize the maps as you want. So a fun little trick that you can do is you can actually, if you have like a couple, say, crates or something, if you have one that's broken and one that's not broken, you can put the one that's broken down on the map and lock it like that, and then you can put the one that's not broken on top of it, lock it, so it's part of the map. So that way, if the characters go through and they're searching for the new thing, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to break open this crate, you can go, okay, and you just delete the top one because they're not interacting with it. It's part of the map now. But you can actually delete the top token, and suddenly there's a broken crate right there. And they're like, wait, did I just do that? Like, what's going on? Additionally, if say they're like, you have like a cup of coffee on the table, they're like, I'm going to take my cup of coffee over here. You can actually hold Alt and middle click it again to make it interactable, so that way they can grab it and they can drag it over to the other table. You can customize your maps and make certain assets interactable using Alt middle click. Yeah. Now, if it's their turn, you can actually hold Shift, click on them, and you can resolve the stack. Sorry, Shift left click. Shift left click.
Barb, are you coming out with a keyboard overlay that we can put that shows us what all the buttons do? I mean,
It's actually in the instructions, but I should probably do. Have been requested to do a cheat sheet.
Where are the
For
instructions posted?
they're in the ref manual inside of DM tools for like these features.
Thank you. I have always wondered about that. Thank you so much.
They're either in, for the ones that I do, they're either in the story entries or the ref manual. So the story entries has the instructions there. If you have the old, the player tools does not have the ref manuals. They just have the story entries. I'm working on updating all of the modules to have all the ref manuals that are pretty and easy to go through. Say if you have questions on token stacks, you can click token stacks and see the different, there's token stacks, DM token stacking, resolution, player token stack resolution, token stack movement. So, and it goes through like, hey, look, there's options that say this, you can set it to these things, this is what it does.
Yeah, let's go through and if you want, Bob, I can help you with this and go through and do some screenshots and then embed them in the reference manual so it's right, with it.
That would be awesome.
Yep. Wouldn't take that long, maybe an hour to do that part and maybe another hour to incorporate it into your work.
That would be awesome. I cannot do it today because of
No. I just mean
Perfect.
future-wise when you're ready to update it.
Yeah. Also with spell tokens, like it has all the different things, like what spell tokens are, how you add them, setting the spell tokens, setting the sizes, using them. It has, the instructions all right there. Apparently pretty pictures to come.
I have another question. Using the
Sure.
example you used earlier with the two effects stacked on top of each other, can that be applied to an NPC as well? Like, for example,
Yes.
a mimic, like you start out looking like a chest, and then you delete the chest and you show the mimic.
Yes, you can. You can literally have like a mimic token underneath of a chest token. And what I would recommend for that is in the combat tracker, have your mimic set as invisible. And have the initiative skip invisible players. So that way the players don't know it's there, and they're like, okay, I'm going to go over this chest, and you're like, cool, and you make it visible. Now, you could probably have it visible, the token visible, but invisible means that they won't know that there's a mimic on the map because it won't show up in the combat tracker. So you delete that chest, click the mimic to be visible, it's right there in their face, and they're like, oh.
Right,
Now,
but
for
you got to remember not to have the encounter and push the down arrow because then the tokens get locked, and the players are aware of that.
yes, unless you go to the options tab or options menu and you just turn that off momentarily and you just add that in there. Now, I've actually added all of the options to Critically Awesome Essentials section right there. So that way you can say, oh, I don't want them to be locked. And you can turn that off. Yeah, the token lock tokens when encounter added to CT. You just turn that off, add the encounter, turn it back on. And you just add an encounter and they didn't know about it. So, additionally, when now there's another extension that myself and Rob and Celestian all made together called Next Level XP Automation. Don't know if you have that one installed.
No, I don't.
Okay, so what that does is, you know how in your character levels, your class levels, if you can just open that up on your main tab. So what that does is as you apply levels that experience to next level, it automatically updates that. So if you're level 2, it'll have the correct experience to next level, level 3, whatnot. Additionally, what it does is it locks down the experience field there, so that way the players can't mess with it. Only the DM can edit it.
Nice.
So that's a nice little thing. That's on the DM's go as well. I think it's pay what you want. But myself, Rob, and Celestian went through and we made that because that was something that a lot of people were like, every time a character levels in 5e, typically the player's like, oh, what's the experience to the next level? And so the DM has to keep repeating those things. And then sometimes when you go and you edit the experience, like you'll click in that box and it'll zero it out, and you're like, crap, what experience did they have? Stuff like that. Like that's a very, very common thing. So that kind of eliminates those issues.
I don't know.
That was episode 75 of All Things Fantasy Grounds Talk Show. You can watch us make that extension.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, which also shows people like what kind of goes into extensions. So that's always an option too if you're interested in coding. Let's see. Custom Damage Manager was the other one that you didn't have installed. What that does is it adds a button to the top left of the DM's combat tracker, and you click it, and it opens up a window that has a list. It looks like the coin list from the party sheet. So if you go to the party sheet, go to inventory. Now that list there that says like PP, GP, EP, it looks like that list, minus the little box there. But just to give you a visual, it looks like that list, and it has every single damage type that's inside the rule set. Now, it also has that little edit button on that box too, and you can click that edit button, and you can add in your own damage types. It's really useful for, like, if you want like a special damage type. You want the big bad to be only killed at the end final fight, because he's going to go and antagonize the players and whatnot. And you don't want the players to just immediately go, okay, I cast Fireball, or I do this, and they crit on him and kill him. And he's your big bad guy, and you're like, great. And I know everybody's like, well, why would they do that? I mean, people aren't murder hobos, right? Now, experienced DM right now is going, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. So you can add a special damage type, make the big bad immune to everything except for that special damage type that the players are not used to. So you don't have to worry about them, going through and saying, "Hey, I want to, like kind of try to bypass this or whatnot and add like fire damage. Be like, oh, hey, look, he's immune or he's not immune to fire damage. I think you're stacking a couple things there, but
Yeah.
So yeah, the background thing. Just grab the edge. So the big bad is only vulnerable to your special damage. Say you want it to be poop damage or frost damage, because say you have an ice world and you have cold damage, but you want frost damage, you want ice damage, you want to delineate those damages. You can add those in, and this allows like if you add those kind of damages to your damage thing, that damage will still go through. However, you won't be able to resist the damage. You won't be able to be immune to the damage and stuff. Adding the damage to the rule set allows you to do those things. So that way, okay, the big bad is immune to everything but, poop damage. Well, okay, players aren't going to put poop on their weapon, right? So the players have to go and they have to quest for these mythic weapons, the obsidian weapons or whatnot. And the obsidian weapons do the special damage type that can actually harm the big bad guy. So that way you can have your epic final battle and stuff like that. And so you can add in or delete damage types using the custom damage manager. I recommend not deleting standard damage types because it deletes it from the rule set. The other benefit of adding things to the rule set is once you've added those damage types, you don't have to run that extension anymore. So you can turn that extension off. So your players won't know that there's a custom damage type in there, and the damage will still be there. So that was actually a request by a member of the community. They asked, hey, is it possible to add custom damage types? Because they actually were adapting a different rule game set into Fantasy Grounds, and they wanted to use 5e or Core. I forgot what version they were using, but they wanted to be able to add in custom damage types because it had unstandard damage types. And I created the extension and gave them a free copy since it was their idea, and open it up for anyone to buy.
So when you drown, what do you call that? Drowning damage, right?
Drowning damage. There's also falling damage. There's crushing damage, which do not exist in the rule set as it is.
Because what damage do apply to somebody that actually drowns?
Yeah, most of the time the DM just like grabs whatever random damage, throws it in the chat, and then starts subtracting it and whatnot. Versus actually like, oh, you take 21 points of falling damage. Falling damage doesn't exist.
Yep. But I mean, at least bludgeoning is close.
Well, you don't actually take the damage when you fall. It's the impact that you take the damage from.
Yeah.
Right. That's true.
But that's more bludgeoning than anything. But drowning damage is neither of those. That's suffocation.
What would look cool, though, is impact damage.
Yeah.
You take it.
Well, you can add impact damage then.
Yeah.
And when you open the list initially, you learn the, I think 17 types of default damage that Fantasy Grounds has, which is all the ones you're thinking of. Fire, acid, cold, poison, all that.
And there's a few that you don't know.
There's adamantine, there's cold forged steel, there's silver, and then also critical is actually a damage type, which confuses a lot of people. But when you open the list, you see all the ones that are already in there, and then you can add your own.
Now, the critical damage was something that during a game, somebody had a vicious warhammer, which basically adds on an additional damage die when they hit somebody with a critical. So the thing is, 1 second here. I have a message from my wife.
So it makes me wonder if you can have temporary damage.
So that critical damage from that extra die on the vicious was resisted because the monster was resistant to all but magical. Like you had to have a magic to overcome the resistance. And so that extra critical damage was not being overridden, even though the weapon was magical. And everybody was like, what's going on? And when I made that extension and I saw that critical was a damage type, and the next time that he hit a critical on a monster like that, it came up and I was like, oh, obviously that's critical damage. And they're like, yeah, it's critical damage. Why was it resisted? I'm like, no. Damage type is critical, not magical. So you have to go in and add that extra magical identifier to it. So it was something that was surprising. That was actually, I had encountered previously. Everybody was like, oh, well, that's just weird. And they move on.
So you could have non-lethal damage or...
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I ran a Legacy of the Crystal Shard, and there was a black ice in that adventure, and that might be a good example of because they made weapons and stuff out of it, so you can make that as a special property, black ice damage, Or I think lead might be a good one as an example, lead damage.
Lead, and that could be like lead poisoning, stuff like that. You can add all kinds of different damages for all kinds of different flourishes. It could be quest related or just world theme related. Several other things that you can do. So I mean, it has a lot of potential more than just, oh, I want to add boot damage. So, let's see. Was there anything else that anyone else had any questions, suggestions, concerns? Additionally, there's Rob Tui's coding effects, which also help DMs a lot. And like, not everybody knows about all these extensions and all the features and stuff. And actually going through this, I realized how much I've actually coded and added to things for like quality of life. Oh, that's another thing. So your player right now doesn't have an initiative. Say he is a player that just happens onto the fight. Well, you can go ahead and right-click on your player in the combat tracker and roll initiative, which I believe is to the right. Yeah, so you roll individual initiative.
Mm-hmm.
So previously, a DM would have to open up the character sheet and click on the character sheet, and then roll initiative from there. You can now roll initiative from the combat tracker, which for characters is not normally a big deal. It's mainly when the DM is like, oh yeah, so this other, like, these guys are going through these kobolds or in these gnolls super fast, and I want to add in another gnoll, and they add another gnoll to the combat tracker, like just an individual gnoll or individual monster. If you add that NPC,
Is that what you're asking?
yes, can you add an NPC to the combat tracker just
Sure.
from the NPC list?
Yep.
Just grab a random one. Oh, look, there's an NPC. Oh, you have it set on group, so it actually automatically rolls it. No worries. But yeah, say if it doesn't automatically roll it, you can tell it to roll initiative right there. Because otherwise, if you have your settings set to where it doesn't automatically roll that, there's no real way other than to manually enter a number to actually add in an initiative. Well, now you can have it roll an initiative. Additionally, if say your rogue was out in the middle of the night, your rogue and he brought a couple of the buddies from the party, but say your paladin was sleeping soundly in the inn, and your rogue was out sneaking around, you can actually right click and give the individual a rest without giving the entire party a rest without opening up the character sheet. And you can choose whether it's a short rest or a long rest. So say, oh yeah, the wizard and the warlock are sitting on a log and is like, hey, you guys go take care of whatever you want over there in town. We're going to sit here and rest. if only those two people get a short rest, you can give them a short rest or a long rest.
Yeah, so you can individually rest or short rest.
Yes.
Cool.
So I do have to go.
Okay.
I have to get ready for stuff, and I can hear my wife and kids.
Yep.
So I'm available. I normally frequent Rob's Discord, and I also pop over to Fantasy Grounds College fairly regularly. DM me or tag me if anyone has any questions, any suggestions, any concerns, any error reports. And definitely let people know that it's out there. Because we try to enhance the quality of life. The coding pack or the effects packs that Rob does, the little quality of life add-ons and stuff. We try to make things better for people. So by all means, like, we're approachable. We love hearing from people. Come check us out. Spread the word. And also, if you want to see these extensions and the effects in action, tonight at 6 p.m. was it Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern, on Rob's Twitch channel, he's actually is starting his pickup groups, which is great for like new players and if you want to see how combat runs and stuff. You can see it in action, and all these extensions and effects and stuff will actually be used in those. So it's a practicality, like seeing how they work in action and stuff. And also if you show up early enough and you've read the instructions that are in Rob's Discord and you meet the requirements, you can also possibly participate in the pickup groups because it's first come, first served as long as you follow the instructions. So if anyone was interested, you could play D&D tonight.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Also, I don't know if you specifically said this, Bob, but Diablo Bob does have his own support channel on my Discord server. So if you come to my Discord server, you can go to the Diablo Bob chat and talk just about his stuff, or if you have a suggestion or a problem, you can go right there. Yeah, Bob and Mattacuri and Kent McCullough all have their own support channels on my Discord server.
I do have to ditch out, guys, so I'm gonna jump off. All right, thank you all. Thanks for watching.